G'day, it's Martin Isles here, and I've just broken out my phone camera in the studio because I have some inside information which I think some of you might find helpful as you come to vote in the May 21 election. I have in front of me a list that I've compiled through my knowledge, through my colleagues' knowledge, and through some of your feedback of all of the people who are running for election on May 21, whether it be in the Senate or the House of Reps, all over the country, who are people of Christian faith. And the criteria really is that they profess to be Christians, and they are happy to say so, but also that there is a degree of practice associated with it, in this case that they're church-going people. It is not a fail-safe thing. I could never say that I endorse the people that I'm going to read out the names of over the next few minutes, although I do think it's a helpful guide and it's useful information as you come to navigate the sea of individuals that are on your ballot. Most of these people, in fact the vast majority of them, they walk the talk, they practice what they preach, and what they believe has some impact on their policies, if not a huge amount of impact. As one or two question marks, you'll probably spot them as I go through, but like I said, this is not an endorsement list. This is a list that will help you make a good decision on May the 21st in conjunction with other information that you may have at your fingertips or that you might research. So, without further ado, I'm going to go through the list. I'm going to start with the Senate, and I'm going to then move to the House of Reps. But I think the Senate is the one. Everyone's got to vote for a senator. It's a smaller list, and it's the white long ballot paper that you're looking at. I'm going to start with the Australian Christian Lobby. The Australian Capital Territory. There could be nothing more separated, no two things that are further apart, really, if you think about it. The Australian Capital Territory, there is one senator running for re-election in the ACT who is a rinky-dink practising Christian. That is Seselja for the Liberal Party. Just one. In New South Wales, we have one Christian who is running for re-election. This time, and don't shoot the messenger, it is Deborah O'Neill for the Australian Labor Party. The rest are all candidates, not sitting senators, and they include Colin Grigg for One Nation, and Colin was a crowd favourite in the recommendations I got from people. Michael O'Neill for the Medical Options Party, John Larter for the Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, I'll just call it the LDP from now on, Liberal Democrats, and Julie Collins, who is an independent. Then we jump over to Queensland. Queensland's got a couple of senators going for re-election who are rinky-dink Christians, I can affirm that. That includes Amanda Stoker for the Liberal National Party and Matthew Canavan for the Liberal National Party. Then there are some candidates, one of them you know very well, probably. They are the One Nation candidates, George Christensen, who is the retired member for Dawson from the Liberal National Party, now running One Nation in the Senate, and Raj Guruswamy, who is also running for One Nation, also a Christian man. And then you have an independent candidate in Rebecca Lloyd, and you have a LDP, Liberal Democratic candidate in Tegan Granger, also widely recommended by good supporters of ours. That's Queensland, so some choices there. South Australia, you have one sitting senator who is a practising Christian running for re-election. That is Senator Don Farrell for the Australian Labor Party. There are still people of Christian faith in Labor, you know. Obviously they're in the severe minority and perhaps a little bit outnumbered, but they're there. And Don Farrell is one. Then you have candidates, and there are four. One is Michael Arbon for the United Australia Party, or I'll just call them the UAP. Damien, I think it's Boyce, B-U-I-J-S, I might be wrong, for the Nationals, but you got the spelling so you can find him. And Nick Duffield for the Australian Federation Party, or the AFP, but not that AFP. Tasmania has quite a few choices, actually. Tasmania has three practising Christians who are running for re-election to the Senate. They include Senator Eric Abetz, a friend of mine. I did an interview with Eric. You can find it on our YouTube channel to have a look at his values. Senator Jonathon Duniam, happy to endorse Jono's faith 100%. Senator Helen Polly for the Australian Labor Party, also happy to endorse the reality of Helen's faith. And then you have three candidates. They include Topher Field for the LDP, some of you will know him, Narelle Button for One Nation, and Justin Stringer for the AFP. Then we move to Victoria, and poor old Victoria, a bit thin on options. You've got two that I could dig out. One is the sitting Senator Bridget McKenzie for the Nationals, running for re-election. The other one is a candidate for the Medical Options Party in Nick Clonaridis. then we have to move to Western Australia, I'm afraid. I'm not aware of any sitting senators going for re-election this time in WA who are Christians. It's just candidates. And they include an independent candidate in Patricia Ayres, a medical options candidate in Michelle Kinsella, a One Nation candidate, Sheila Mundy, and 2 Australian Christians candidates, both of whom I can confirm are solid Christian people. The first one is Mike, and Mike, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your surname. It's Crichton or Crichton, Crichton, and Mareka Groenwald, who I've met and heartily affirm her faith, obviously running for Australian Christians. That's the Senate roundup, and you can see no matter what state you live in, except Northern Territory, there is somebody who professes Christian faith and appears to have some degree of practice attached to that faith. Now, if I didn't mention a senator and you're going, what about Senator O'Sullivan? What about Senator Antic or Senator Fawcett? Well, it's because they're not up for re-election on May the 21st. Senators go up for re-election every second federal election because they have 6-year terms. So that's why I haven't mentioned those guys, because they're not up for election this time. That's the Senate situation sorted. The next one's going to take me a little longer because it's actually quite a list, which I suppose is encouraging. And I'm going to go through the electorates around the country. Yours may well be mentioned, a lot of them are here, where there are Christian candidates or a Christian MP running for re-election. So I'm going to start with A, the electorate of Aston, which is in Victoria. And I start with one that will raise eyebrows because it is Alan Tudge, the sitting member for the Liberal Party. I know there's issues there, and those who follow the news know that, but I have to take the man's word up until recent times as to his faith, and of course there's issues there. But there is Rebecca Spellman, who is a candidate for the UAP, the United Australia Party, in the same electorate, Aston. Then we go to Barker, which is in South Australia. That's Jonathon Peach for the Nationals. Peach is a P-I-E-T-Z-S-C-H, so one of those. It must be Polish, I think. Hope I'm not wrong. Bass, Melanie Davey for One Nation. Bean in the ACT. David Smith for the Australian Labor Party. He's actually the chair of the Parliamentary Christian Fellowship for Labor. Bennelong, Reece Collier, the UAP. Blair, Shane Newman, the Australian Labor Party. I think that's still true of Shane. That might be a historical claim, but I'm pretty sure it's still true. Bonner, Amanda Neal, One Nation. Bowman, Henry Pike for the Liberals, who is widely expected to replace the outgoing Liberal MP Andrew Laming. Henry's a solid Christian man. Braddon, Duncan White for the LDP. Bradfield, Rob Fletcher for the UAP. Bruce, James Moody for the Liberals. Burt, the sitting Labor member Matt Keogh. Colwell, the sitting Labor member Maria Vacano. Canning, Brad Bedford for the West Australian Party. James Waldeck for the United Australia Party. Ashley Williams, Independent. 3 candidates, all Christians, running against a Christian MP who is already elected there, Andrew Hastie, which is widely known to be a great Christian guy, for the Liberal Party. So, sport for choice in Canning, although I would 100% confirm that Andrew is a strong Christian man. Capricornia, Nathan Harding for the UAP. Cook, Scott Morrison for the Liberal Party, the Prime Minister. Corangamite, Daniel Abu Zaid, or Zayed, I hope I've got that right. The UAP. Cowan, Vince Connelly for the Liberals. Now, Vince Connelly is actually an MP in the Parliament right now. It's just that because of redistributions, there's been the loss of a seat in Western Australia. So Vince is running against Labor's Anne Arlee now. So 2 MPs are running against each other. Only one can survive. Vince is a Christian man. Cowan again, Tyler Walsh, One Nation. Cowper, or it could be Cooper, I've never really thought about that. C-O-W-P-E-R, Cowper. Faye Aspiotis for One Nation. Simon Chasling for the LDP, so there's 2 there. Cunningham, Michael Glover for the LDP. Curtin, Ladisha Verhoff for the UAP, and also the sitting Liberal member Celia Hammond in Curtin. Deakin, Michael Suker, the sitting Liberal member for the Liberals, and I know he's a real man of faith. Dunkley, Adrian Irvine for the UAP. Durack for Ian Blaney for the Nationals. Fadden, the sitting Liberal member Stuart Robert. Fadden again, Sandy Roach for One Nation. Fadden again, some of these electorates. Nathan O'Brien for the UAP. Fairfax, we have Lisa Corey for the UAP, a crowd favourite in terms of recommendations. Fisher, Tony Moore for the UAP. Flinders, Alex Vanderend for the UAP. So many Christians have gotten into the UAP. It's actually astounding. Ford, the sitting Liberal member, Bert Van Manen. Ford again. I'm going to say Toby. It's T-O-B-B-Y. I'm assuming it's Toby with 2 B's. Toby Sutherland for the LDP. Again, a crowd favourite for recommendations. 2 for Forrest. Shane Metzger for One Nation. And Tracy Aitken for the Great Australian Party, or GAP. In Fowler, you have Leela Panic for the UAP, Franklin Kirsty Johnson for the Liberals, Fraser Sabine DePile for One Nation, Fraser again, the sitting Labor member Daniel Molino, Greenway, Pradeep Pathi for the Liberal Party, Groom, Grant Abraham for One Nation, Hasluck, Ken Wyatt, the sitting Liberal member. I think, I'm told, that's all I have on that actually, but good faith, I'll include him. I missed Gray, sorry, Suzanne Waters for the UAP in Gray. Back to Holt, Geraldine Hanson for the UAP, Hotham, Edward Sock for the LDP, Hume, Angus Taylor, the sitting Liberal member and current minister in the government, great guy Angus. Hunter, there's two, there's Jeff Passfield for the UAP and James Thomson for the Nationals. I'm happy to affirm the reality of James's faith for sure. Great young fella. Lingiari, Tim Gallard for One Nation, a crowd favourite for recommendations that came in, thank you. Longman, Terry Young, the sitting Liberal member. Line, Mark Hornshaw for the LDP. MacArthur, Rosetta Cesari, S-I-C-A-R-I for the UAP. McKellar, Christopher Ball for the UAP. Macon, Abram, check this out, Abram Lazutin, I love that name, for the AFP, again, the Australian Federation Party, not the other AFP. Malley, the sitting Nationals member, Dr. Anne Webster, I know to be a fine Christian lady, and also the UAP candidate Stuart King. Maranoa, Nathan McDonald for the UAP, a crowd favourite for recommendations, I have to say. Not recommendations, what's the word? People bringing my attention to him as a Christian. Maribyrnong, Dr. Mark Hobart for the Great Australian Party. Mayo, Mark Neugebauer, that's a cracker of a name, for the AFP. McEwen, Chris Neal for the AFP. McPherson, there's three. Andy Cullen for the Australian Values Party. Glenn Pine for the LDP. And Joshua Berrigan for the UAP. In Melbourne, wow, good luck Richard Peppard in Melbourne for the LDP, running in Sodom and Gomorrah. Menzies, Keith Wallahan for the Liberals. Monash, the sitting Liberal member Russell Broadbent. Moore, you have two, the sitting Liberal member Ian Goodenough and the One Nation candidate Brian Brightman. Morton, there's two, Chelsea Follett for the UAP and Neil Swan for One Nation. New England, you have and again, an eyebrow will raise, I know, but I have to take this for what it is. Barnaby is a church-going Catholic. He is the member there for New England, for the Nationals. And then there's Matt Sharpham, who is an independent candidate for the Nationals. I've got to say, Matt, again, was widely brought to my attention when I asked people if they knew Christian candidates. Newcastle, Katrina Wack for the Liberals, W-A-R-K that is. North Sydney, Robert Nalbandian for the UAP. Page, Thomas Searles for the LDP. Parkes, Benjamin Fox for Medical Options. Patterson, Brooke Vitnell for the Liberals. Pearce, there's two. Linda Aitken for the Liberals and Aaron Malloy for One Nation. Petrie, you've got the sitting Liberal member Luke Howarth. I know that is true. Richmond, there's three. Monica Shepherd for Medical Options, Nathan Jones, an independent, and Kimberly Hone for the Nationals. Kimberly, I think, was the most mentioned person in private messages I got about Christians who were running, I've got to say. Robertson, Lucy Wicks, the sitting Liberal member. Ryan, you have Damien Corey, the candidate for the LDP. Then you have Solomon, the sitting Labor member. Luke Gosling, former chair of the Parliamentary Christian Fellowship for Labor. Spence, Matilda Borden for the AFP. Warringah, Andrew Robertson for the UAP. Watson, and again, this is definitely historical. I don't know the latest, but Watson, Tony Burke, the sitting member for the Australian Labor Party. And finally, Weriwa, Victor Tay for the LDP. And I have to say, a lot of people mentioned Victor to me. So there you go. When you read all that, it's kind of encouraging, isn't it? Let's hope, there's good Christian representation in the next Parliament. Like I said, that list is to assist you along with other information because it's not a foolproof list and it's not a foolproof measure. It's information to assist your vote. But I trust it's the sort of thing you won't get anywhere else.